Hello and welcome to the latest episode of our local to global series here on the Random Wrestling Revue. We are, of course, now nearly into May of 2001. We just ran our last show, which was Chaos Theory, and Chaos Theory has actually ended up being quite an apt name for this, mainly because it lines up quite well actually with what happened off screen, which was Jim the Anvil Neidhart leaving us in the lurch ahead of the show just 2 days before the show, meaning we had to do some things on the fly to change this around, mainly changing this opening match so that Eric Young would have been the one who faced Jim Neidhart and would have lost in this opener, and then that would have preceded Batista attacking Jim Neidhart, and this angle here would have been down here instead. Instead, what happened was that Batista attacked Chris Harris after Harris had successfully defended the RWR Northwest title for the third time against Teddy Hart. Where that leaves us, though, obviously, is a little bit of a gap here in Hart Incorporated, because it is now just Bruce Hart and Chris Harris as the members of that faction. We're going to address that today. We're going to address that today. First thing we're going to do, though, is get Bruce Hart, and we are going to tweak his gimmick, because apparently it was getting stale according to the message we got on a recent show. So I've tweaked that in the hope that it won't be awful anymore. Not a major problem though, really. We're also, before I actually move off that screen, going to release Eric Young. I've been talking about this for a little bit of time. It just hasn't really happened for him ultimately with us, and I've not found a path to him becoming a more important part of the story or more important part of the roster, and so he is going. But we are going to hire two people, and that's obviously because we now have some vacancies on our roster. Let's look at before we do that, let's look at the rankings, because that will show you a little bit of that. The fact that we've got 19 people on the roster here, that still includes Eric Young at the moment because we hadn't released him before I put this together. So we've actually got 18 members of the roster, of which we are kind of in the zone of having 20 in general right now. And yeah, and we may even go a little bit further than that, honestly, because I just feel like we are in a place where having Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge, for example, are not going to stick around for much longer. In fact, this might be their last show as well. So we're really in a sort of period at the moment of refreshing the roster. Now, I'm going to be actually hiring two heels to do this. The first one is a returning face. The one-man gang, you'll remember, did very briefly appear in the company, I think about 2-3 years ago. He had these 4 matches in the company, and he went into a feud with Buddy Wayne, or we were going to go into a feud with Buddy Wayne, and then that didn't happen. They went to a double count out, and then we had One Man Gang hand in his notice, basically. So then in January of Total Chaos, we had a last man standing match between them. This was January 99, and Buddy Wayne won the match, and One Man Gang was gone. We're going to rehire him, and he's effectively going to be our replacement for Jim the Anvil Neidhart to go into Hart Incorporated and kind of be their new muscle, effectively. We're just going to almost like a straight swap here. We're going to say, okay, Neidhart's gone, but Bruce Hart then hires One Man Gang to come in and be his like hired gun. The other person we're signing is a pretty big name, at least in real life. It's Brock Lesnar, currently unemployed. Now, I thought he had signed for one of the big companies, but according to this, there's been no news about that at all. He came into the game in January of 2000. June of 2000. I've left it a year nearly to allow him to get signed by someone, aware that if I sign him, almost certainly he'll go somewhere else straight away. He hasn't been signed. I'm going to bring him in for $70 a show. I think we can live with the cost. And I just thought, to hell with it. I saw him when I was looking through potential signings for this company going forward. I saw him and I thought, yes, that's what I think this company needs right now, Brock Lesnar. So One Man Gang and Brock Lesnar are coming in. I would usually do that at the beginning of the next month, but hell, we've done it early today just to make sure we remember to do it. We've also got the Lottery Brawl as our next show in the calendar, which is not right because there needs to be one more event in May, and it needs to have the word May in it somewhere. So this is going to be RWR, the May of the Jackal. That's going to be our next show. Special, obviously, one-off event Monday, week 2 in May. So that is the next event we've got. The May of the Jackal is in, and we will now proceed to the end of the current month, because when we get there we'll have a quick look at the finances of the company, which have been a little bit questionable as of late, and then we'll obviously move towards May of the Jackal. A little bit of a chance here for me to say thanks for watching today. Thanks for clicking on this thumbnail. Here's some, hang on, before we go any further, here's some confirmations that Brock Lesnar's coming in, and One Man Gang won't be far behind him, I'm sure. Yeah, thanks for choosing to click on this thumbnail. Thanks for joining us for today, and also give us a like. Click the like button, click the subscribe button to carry on following along with this series. If you are already following along but perhaps have only just joined us, feel free to go back to the very start of this series, because I do think that there is real value in having seen what's happened in the past. I do think that we've really rewarded long-term watching on this series, but maybe you disagree. Let me know if you do in the comments below. So that's One Man Gang in as well. So we've made our 2 signings. Whilst we're here, let's have a look at In Your House from April 2001. Main evented by Shawn Michaels and Brian Pillman in a World Heavyweight title match. Shawn Michaels winning in a 99 rated match in front of 75,000 in the Orange Bowl in Miami. They pretty much run a stadium for every pay-per-view now. A 96 rated show with The Undertaker and Bret Hart against Owen Hart and Diesel, and Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Lex Luger. All 3 matches 99 rated. Also a 90 rated match between Goldust, Hollywood Hogan and Dean Douglas. Brilliant. Big Show against Bart Gunn in an 89 rated match as well there. Sting defeated Isaac Yankem to retain the Intercontinental title. So no Kane in this universe, because Kane is still Isaac Yankem. I mean, amazing stuff really from WWE. So, they just continue to be easily the best, biggest and most successful wrestling company in the world. But in a way, I'm kind of hoping that I kind of feel like that's helping us a little bit, because they aren't necessarily signing up really hot prospects. So we already knew these ones. Shawn Stasiak's been injured, a hip pointer. Let's just see what that means for him. That could be a problem for us. 4 days. No, he's fine. 4 days. Our show's not for 7 days, so that's not going to affect us at all. So finances then. We did make a small profit of $400 last month. That is really welcome, because that means 3 of the last 4 months, we have made a profit, and I'm feeling a bit better about our monetary situation again, because we lost quite a bit of money the previous month. Actually, if you look at that $1,700, that's about the cost of 1 appearance of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. So, we got a lot of really good results out of Neidhart in terms of our top 100. If you look at our 100 matches, Neidhart is up there for nearly all of them, but he was costing us an awful lot of money. And we've got some great talent on this roster, and I think we're not far off from a combination of people within this roster giving us the kind of quality that he was putting out. We're going to change Brock Lesnar to a heel. A legitimate athlete gimmick is fine. We're going to take One Man Gang. He's a heel. That's fine. He's back into the company. It's great to see him back, actually. I said we only kind of had him 4 matches previously. So let's go to the May of the Jackal. A show that I've got to be honest, I'm on a little bit of a binge recording session of episodes. So I get to a certain point every now and again where I have a little bit of a break, not long, maybe sort of 4 or 5 days, and then don't record an episode for that period of time. Then record one, then have another 4 or 5 days, and then record another one. But in the last this episode and the last 3 or 4 episodes, I've recorded 1 a day. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in terms of episodes being released, which is pushing out the amount of episodes still to come. Ultimately, as at the time you're watching this, I think that might continue for some time, because I've just had so many ideas come into my head for this world that we've built and the universe that we've created. And I'm having to kind of almost hold myself back, both in terms of getting too carried away, too far ahead of time with my plans. Just in my head, I'm not writing this down, but I've got things in my head that go on for quite a long time now into the future. But also, I've got so many ideas that not to use them all at once, because if I use them all at once, that'll mean I've got none left for the future. So Stasiak's back. Rex King has left WWC, which is fine. I think we knew about that happening anyway. And Cool. We move on then. We've got the May of the Jackal, of course, not the Day of the Jackal, the May of the Jackal. And let's do this then. Monday, week 2, May 2001, May of the Jackal is the show. So, where are we going to start? Well, we are going to start with an angry Dave Bautista coming to the ring. Obviously, the end of the previous show was Dave Bautista coming out, attacking Chris Harris, and the two of them brawling around the venue. Dave Bautista comes out and... Dave Bautista calls out Chris Adams. Bruce Hart responds, and then OMG, One Man Gang, attacks Batista from behind. So this is the opening segment. It's basically going to see Dave Bautista coming out, calling Chris Adams out, saying, "I want a match here now. Don't want, make it non-title, put it in a cage, do whatever you want to do, but I want Chris Harris in a match." Bruce Hart instead responds and tells him that Chris Harris is not in the building today. He's not booked. He's not going to be here, and he tells Dave Bautista to calm down and to carry on with life. He says that Dave Bautista's really angry with Jim the Anvil Neidhart, but that makes two of them because Jim the Anvil Neidhart's walked out on him, left Random Wrestling Revue, and you shouldn't expect to see him again. And then as this is going on, One Man Gang runs in from behind of Batista, attacks the former champion, and beats him down. And so that is we're actually making this a little bit longer, a 7-minute segment here with OMG attacking Dave Bautista. I think what we'll do here is change all this again. So I think we'll make this Dave Bautista versus One Man Gang. This is ultimately, as I said, a straight swap, really, in terms of One Man Gang going into this feud with Dave Bautista, taking over effectively from Jim Neidhart. And, basically just completely swapping one out for the other. The opening match of the night will be Phantasma, who's on a good run at the moment, having won 2 of his 2 first matches. He'll take on Johnny Grunge, and he'll get another win here. We'll make this another 10 minutes. I think Johnny Grunge will be unhappy with what I'm about to do, but I don't really care because this will be the last appearance of him and Rocker Rock, the 2 Public Enemy guys, and he should be thankful, really, that this is as kind to him as it is, because I'm not going to protect him. We don't need to protect him, because there's something else that's coming up that Rocker Rock's going to have to go through, which is worse. So Bruce Hart's going to come out after this match, and Bruce Hart demands to know the identity of Phantasma. Now, you'll remember on the last show, Bruce Hart came out during the Phantasma match and was watching him, and now he's coming out here to demand who he is, and Woman tells Hart that he's paranoid, and alluding to the fact, ultimately, Bruce Hart is worried here that this is just a rehash of what happened the last time James Storm apparently left the company, came back obviously as the Shadow, and that wasn't what happened. And so he's worried that this is happening again now that James Storm is gone. About a month has passed, and Phantasma has appeared under the management of Woman, just like the Shadow. And he's worried that Phantasma is once again James Storm, despite probably looking a little bit different. Now, I did check this out a little bit with some whatever detail I could find, and it seems like Phantasma's a little bit lighter than James Storm, although what point in James Storm's career that weight was measured is possibly going to change the weight that he had. So it's possible they were closer in weight in 2001 than they would have been, say, between Phantasma in 2001 and James Storm in 2015, for example. But they were also about the same height, so I was like, well, they could just about be a concern from Bruce Hart, especially if he was paranoid that this was James Storm. But of course, it is not. So we're going to have that as another segment here. And this is kind of the newest storyline, or the next, I guess not next chapter necessarily, but the next consequence of everything that took place between Bruce Hart and James Storm. That's what we'll call this storyline. Bruce Hart is worried about Phantasma. We'll have a woman in there as well. So a little bit of something else, just a little bit of, I don't have any clue where this is going, by the way. I dreamt this up after I decided that James Storm was going to lose. I then thought actually a really cool thing to do would to bring in a luchador, a genuine luchador, about the same size as James Storm, and then have Bruce Hart worried about the fact that Phantasma could be James Storm. I have no idea where it's going to go from here. It may not go anywhere, but we'll see. So the next match is the debut of Brock Lesnar. Quite excited by this because I've no idea how good the game is going to see him as being. He's going to face Rocco Rock. It's going to be a short match. We'll make it 5 minutes, and Brock is going to dominate this one, which is going to absolutely leave, I'm sure, Rocco Rock seething. But again, we're letting him and Johnny Grunge go at this point, and so I'm not worried. And we're really looking to see. I'm really, first of all, looking to push Brock Lesnar hard. I mean, you can't not. This is the thing with Brock Lesnar. You bring in a guy who looks like Brock Lesnar. You can't then bring him in and have him go into competitive matches with, light heavyweights or whatever. You've kind of just really got to go straight in on him. So I thought, let's do it. But also, we're going to see how good he is. If the game doesn't rate him as good as real life would, then maybe that will scupper the chances of us really going deep with Brock Lesnar. But if he's as good as he should be, and his potential is where it should be, then the sky is the limit, really. So the May of the Jackal, the main matches really are based around two feuds that have been going for some time. Billy Kidman will take on Buddy Wayne, and these two have poor chemistry, so this is why we are going with it in a lower match. It's not the main event ultimately, but we still want these two to go at it in a good contest. I think the winner of this one is going to be Buddy Wayne. Kidman won the original match, and not that I'm too much of a stickler for having kind of their BA rubber match. I think that the point is that Buddy Wayne really needed to get a victory against Billy Kidman here because, Kidman is... in fact, what I might do... I might have Buddy Wayne win it, but we're going to have an intentional count-out finish here. That's what we're going to do. And we'll make this the storytelling match as well, just to add a little bit of something to it. So Buddy Wayne and Billy Kidman have their second singles match against each other. They've been feuding since Billy Kidman turned on Buddy Wayne after Kidman. What was I can't remember the exact circumstances actually of the turn. It was around here, right? Because they fought each other at this show. So I think was it here? I'm trying to remind myself. This is the details of this feud starting have somewhat escaped me at the moment. Oh yeah, that's right. So they took on the Mavericks for the tag team title. The Mavericks won by stoppage because Buddy Wayne was hurt, and then Billy Kidman turned on Buddy Wayne because he blamed him for the loss and blamed him for a lot of other things as well. I think Buddy Wayne had won some kind of four-way match that had happened shortly before the Super Summer Tag Team Extravaganza, which put Buddy Wayne in the number one contenders position. I think then they'd not progressed as far as they'd hoped to in the Super Summer Tag Team Extravaganza itself. So that's where all that happened and got built up from. Then we're going to have a 2 versus 2 versus 2 match. Now, we've had one or two three-way tag matches, but I don't know if we've had too many... we've had a number of four-way tag matches, but I don't know how many three-way tag matches we've had. It's going to be C.W. Anderson and Charlie Haas, the Red Alert team, Sean Stasiak and Mark Henry, and it's going to be Teddy Hart and TJ Wilson. You remember I added Red Alert to the story that already existed between the Calgary Connection and Stasiak and Mark Henry last time. We'll make this one a 14-minute contest, and the winners are going to be the Calgary Connection. We'll have Teddy Hart get the pinfall over, I think, C.W. Anderson, and that's how it's going to go. Everybody's happy. Calgary Connection get the victory in this one over Stasiak and Henry and Red Alert, which puts them in the presumptive #1 contenders position, I would guess, for the tag team titles. In fact, let's just make it official. This is a #1 tag team title #1 contenders match between Red Alert, Sean Stasiak, Mark Henry, and Calgary Connection, with the Calgary Connection coming out as the winners. Then our main event is going to be CM Punk. I haven't written that well at all. CM Punk against Ace Steel. So this is the other feud that's been going for pretty much the same period of time as Billy Kidman and Buddy Wayne. This all came about when Punk was offered a place in the Rebellion but turned it down, and then subsequently turned babyface to go up against them. And their original encounter was won by Punk. So on this occasion, Steel is going to win. He's going to win by pinfall with outside interference from Chemo. Is going to be the one who helps him win this one. And that is our main event, 15-minute match. No titles on the line on this show, but obviously two big feuds that have been going on a while, these two singles feuds that are kind of the draw for this show. But that's not the end of the event. So after the event, Chemo is going to cut a promo, and he's going to be speaking to Ace Steel. And Chemo tells Steel, to hell with the agreement. He wants his title shot in 2 weeks. We'll make it a reasonably short one. I'm just going to double check with my rankings here. So this is the rankings, and just to remind you all of what these asterisks mean, because I know we looked at this earlier on, but I didn't explain the asterisks. So we've got Ace Steel and Barry Buchanan, Chemo and Billy Kidman with 1 star each, one asterisk against their name. And those are the people that are bound by the agreement made by Ace Steel with Bruce Hart that they would defer their title shots until such time as Chris Harris lost the title. In fact, they even have the option, whoever is at the top of these rankings, by come the time Harris loses the title, they have the option of effectively cashing in their title shot immediately as soon as Chris Harris loses. That's the deal that's been done. Charlie Haas, meanwhile, has 2 stars against his name, and that's because he hasn't won a match in over 6 months because he was injured for a certain number of months, and has been told by Bruce Hart that he is not applicable for a title shot until such time as he's won a match. You can see here he's already got 10 points, but he needs to win another match because he hasn't won one in over 6 months. That's just a new clause, a new rule that's been made by Bruce Hart, but I guess he's a heel right now, he can make these rules. And so what that means is that theoretically the new #1 contender is CM Punk because he's on 6 points. And Teddy Hart obviously lost a title match last month, which meant he went down to 0 points. So at this point, what we're saying is because Ace Steel, Barry Buchanan, and Chemo are all bound by this agreement, they defer their title shot, which means Punk is the #1 contender. But Chemo is taking this opportunity to basically tell Ace Steel to hell with the agreement. He wants his title shot now and will face Chris Harris as his right as the #1 contender. If everyone else above him defers their title shot, he will take the title shot himself. And that was built into why he helped Ace Steel beat Punk, because it meant Punk's wins stayed at 6, which just makes it a little bit more tidier for Chemo to remain a #1 contender. And actually what we're going to do at this point, I'm going to set to turn 2 men, neither of which might happen, both of which might happen, neither of which might happen, one of them might happen, don't know yet, but one of them is Ace Steel and the other is Chemo. In fact, he's been working babyface all this time. How did that happen? He's been working babyface forever. Okay, well, that's obviously been a major problem for the game, but I've not noticed it to now. He's been in the company for ages. So Chemo's already a babyface. So both of them now are in the... That might make things easier. But basically, Ace Steel and Chemo, what we have to presume is that though the game doesn't think so, Chemo is a babyface. And both Ace Steel and Chemo, or one of them, or neither of them, could be set to turn over the next few months. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I just want to set them to turn so that when I decide on doing so with one of them, it makes sense in the story. Okay, so this is what we're going to do then. The May of the Jackal is all set up. I'll just check the booking analysis. We've got 2 guys extremely unhappy. That's fine. They're going to be going. We're not going to be penalised. Let's do it. So in front of 180 people back in the Marshall Center, Dave Bautista starts the show by coming to the ring with purpose, and he says he wants Chris Harris in a match now. He says, to hell with the title. He knows he's not the number one contender. He just wants to face Chris Harris in a match. He calls Chris Harris to face him now. Instead, Bruce Hart responds and tells Dave Bautista to calm down. He says that Chris Harris is not in the building and there will be no match between the two. Chris Harris is the current reigning Northwest champion, and we don't do non-title matches in the Random Wrestling Revue, so you'll have to wait your turn and become the number one contender. And at that point, he is attacked from behind by one-man gang, attacks Batista and leaves him lying in the ring. And Bruce Hart smiles, looking on with happiness at the situation. And you can see here everybody looked really good. This was a good crowd in general, and progressed the Batista one-man gang storyline, although it did mean it lost some heat, but I think that's because we left it at quite a high segment rating of 43. Though is not a bad way at all to start this show. Then we have the opening contest with Phantasma defeating Johnny Grunge in 9:37 by pinfall, a segment rating of 37. Phantasma up to 32 now, the best in-ring performance he's had so far in the company. Johnny Grunge of 40. I mean, look, Grunge and Rocco Rock are decent wrestlers, and I would ordinarily, just from their quality, want to keep them around, but I don't have a great deal of, I don't know what it is, just they don't inspire me to create new stories for them. We've done what we want to do with the Public Enemy, and I think this is why this is their last event. Then we have the angle after the match with Bruce Hart coming out and saying that he wants to know, he's demanding to know the identity of Phantasma. He says that he's dealt with an issue like this before, with a masked man coming in, getting a good number of victories straight off the bat and quickly rising up the rankings, where he even went on to win the Northwest title until he found out that person shouldn't have even been in the company. And he says not only that, but that person was eventually exposed to be managed by a woman. So he says, I need to know that this is not a repeat. A woman grabs a microphone and tells Bruce Hart that he's paranoid. She says that Phantasma has been a recognized top-tier competitor in Mexican wrestling for the last 20 years, and that if Bruce Hart is worried, he can look at all the record books he wants to. But she does tell him that Phantasma is not going to remove his mask and not going to reveal his true identity in line with the deepest traditions of Lucha Libre, and that's how it's ended here, with Bruce Hart being worried about Phantasma, a woman moving to kind of, I guess, in a little bit of a way, reassure him, but at the same time kind of tell him you're being paranoid. So next, Brock Lesnar versus Rocco Rock, and Brock Lesnar had an in-ring performance of 36 in his debut and was off his game whilst doing it. He's going to be special, and he won with a shooting star press as well in 5:24. So this is young Brock, who does the shooting star press regularly, a segment rating of 27, not the best segment rating actually, which is a bit strange given the fact that Rocco Rock did a 43 performance as well. But whatever the case, I mean, this is exciting as Brock Lesnar looks extremely, extremely good on his debut. We then have Billy Kidman and Buddy Wayne in a continuation of their feud. I mean, again, it made for an awkward bout because they don't seem to click. But it did got segment rating of 41. Billy Kidman was a 41. Buddy Wayne a 33. So he's dropping a little bit in his performances at the moment, despite getting the victory here in 13:26. When Billy Kidman intentionally got counted out, Buddy Wayne obviously on top in the match, and Kidman just walked out and said, "To hell with this. I'm done with this. I'm not going to continue to fight." So Buddy Wayne gets the victory with Billy Kidman intentionally walking out on the match. Then we have the three-way tag team match, which saw the Calgary Connection defeat Red Alert and Sean Stasiak and Mark Henry in this three-way match. 14:26 is the time of the match with, it was an elimination. So I've done this thing before where I've not realized there was a elimination. It was an elimination gimmick. We're going to pretend it wasn't elimination. It was just an ordinary three-way match, which was won by the Calgary Connection when I think it's Teddy Hart pins C.W. Anderson. And in terms of in-ring ratings, so TJ Wilson was just a 28. Mark Henry was off his game. A 44 rating is not bad, but I think the combined talent in this ring was possible. It was capable of more. I mean, Teddy Hart did a 45, Stasiak a 44, Charlie Haas a 43. I don't feel like Charlie Haas has fully recovered his form since being out injured. Meanwhile, Teddy Hart continues to take strides forward in the Calgary connection, get the victory in this one to become the new #1 contenders to the tag team title. And then it is the main event, and it's a 51 rated match between CM Punk and Ace Steel. Punk was off his game, which meant that he did a 47 rather than his usual 49-ish performance. Ace Steel a 44, but a segment rating of 51 is really, really great. And we hinted towards the potential face turn for Ace Steel during the match. 14:34 this one went. Obviously, chemo makes the difference when he interferes and helps Ace Steel get a victory back on his now long-time rival. And that leads to the final segment of the show with chemo grabbing a microphone and telling Ace Steel that, look, he respects Ace Steel. The two of them started the rebellion together. They are, they've been brothers for a couple of years now, and that he doesn't want to disrespect Ace Steel or whatever, but he didn't enter into this agreement with Bruce Hart. It was Ace Steel who entered into that agreement, and he says he's not accepting it. He's saying he heard what CM Punk said 2 weeks ago when Punk told Steel that basically we were supposed to be the rebellion, and now we're no longer the rebellion because we're working with the very man that we were rebelling against in the first place. And so he says, to hell with the agreement, I'm taking my title shot in 2 weeks time against Chris Harris, and I'm going to win the title. So Chemo will face Chris Harris at the Lottery Brawl, a segment rating of 42, and that's how we end this show. An overall rating of 47, a really good main event between Ace Steel and CM Punk, of course. Some decent other matches. I was happy with Phantasma's performance, very pleased with Brock Lesnar's performance, despite the perhaps lower match ratings. Buddy Wade and Billy Kidman did really well, despite the fact that they don't have any chemistry. The tag team trio was good, but the main event really, really helped us here. And so a speech, which is going to go, first of all, to Punk. He was off his game, wasn't he? Even though he was off his game, I mean, maybe I'll go with Ace Steel, compliment him on a good performance. I think we will give Brock Lesnar a compliment, given, his first match. And I think Phantasma, who had his best performance in an RWR ring. Now, I should just clarify in regards to Chemo that he's not turned babyface, and he's not like feuding or gone against Ace Steel. He's just saying, look, I completely respect you, but I'm taking my title shot regardless of anything else that's happened. So we've got Charlie Haas saying that Brock Lesnar is going to be a star. I mean, yes, he is, obviously. Interesting here, WWE interested in bringing Brian Pillman back to the company. Obviously, after that match with Shawn Michaels, not a surprise, but can they really lure Brian Pillman back to their company when the WWE is doing really poorly? I mean, I guess if they promised him to be the top star, and he should be the top star if he goes back based on the performances he's had, then maybe they can do. We will see. I guess we'll check in on that as we continue to go. But that is today's episode. We've run slightly over again, our normal 30-minute slot, but thank you for sticking with it, and I'll catch you on the next episode.